My gosh, you guys, having kids is so much fun.
You're ready to go forward.
Yes,
You don't need any more time.
I'm ready.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Saj, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the 8 passengers and more specifically Ruby Franke. Before I get into this video, please make sure that you are subscribed. Actually 101% of my viewers are subscribed to my channel. So subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts, and please remember to share if you care. I also want to have a trigger warning if you are sensitive to things about child harm. Please find another video. My most recent video was rating celebrity Christmas lights, so if you want something more lighthearted, you can definitely find some other things on my channel. But let's get into today's topic. In 2015, a married couple named Kevin and Ruby Franke started their YouTube channel where they documented the lives of themselves and their 6 children. I am not going to get into the names of their 6 children. The only 2 I'm mainly going to be saying the names of are Chad and Sherry because they are now above the age of 18. This YouTube channel gained over 2.5 million subscribers, which is a lot of subscribers. This YouTube channel even opened up doors for other family members of Ruby's. Specifically, her 3 sisters became YouTubers because of them, and other family members like the younger children, they also gained a social media following on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. So this family was making a lot of money as a whole, and there was a lot of eyes on this family. I do want to mention, I never personally watched the 8 Passengers YouTube channel. It was just never for me. Like, I would watch like YouTubers I like to watch, like Sloan or Adam McIntyre, like review the 8 Passengers, but like I wasn't sitting there watching like kids play with each other. Like, I feel like that just was never like for me. So I don't actually watch any family YouTuber content. Besides, I do watch the little blonde and brunette twin on TikTok. I do watch them. They're actually pretty cute kids. But other than that, I really don't watch family channels. I can't sit there and watch like a full like 15-minute videos of children just playing with each other. Like, I'm like, this is just weird. And there was always some criticism revolving this family, but the criticism didn't really ramp up until 2020. I have suspicion about the parenting style of this family channel. It was very heavily scrutinized, and for good reasons. So now I'm going to get into concerning parenting moments, and I'm going to watch and review these parenting moments. So one of the most highly scrutinized stories about this family is the 6-year-old daughter and not having food to eat. So there was 2 instances. One was a phone call, the other was a text message from the 6-year-old's teacher, and it seems like, from what I've gathered, that the 6-year-old, Ruby's 6-year-old, is responsible for packing, making, and taking her own lunch to school. So I guess a day or 2 she forgot, which is totally normal for a 6-year-old child. And the 6-year-old's teacher reached out, and the teacher expressed some concerns about being uncomfortable that this child has no food to eat, which I think any grown adult would have that immediate, protection over any little child, being like, you need something to eat, right? So after receiving texts and phone calls saying that, your child is hungry at school, Ruby refuses to go to the school and drop her kid off lunch.
Just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her...
To tell you this, honey, but unless you find a friend who's willing to share some of their food with you, I don't think you're going to be able to eat. But if you're not responsible for your lunch and your lunch money, that's the natural consequence. And I'm really sorry you're learning this the hard way. I will have a wonderful, yummy snack. Just hang in there today and just make up your mind. You're going to be really careful and make sure you grab your stuff when you go to school next time. And maybe you have a good friend who will share some of their sandwich with you or something. Russell, I'm really sorry.
And I have a lot of issues with this, which I'll get into later. But she says that she doesn't do this because she uses hunger as a form of punishment, which is kind of insane. So the child's punishment for not taking her own lunch to school, she's 6 by the way, the punishment for this child not taking her own lunch to school is hunger. Okay, that's random. And I just want you to think of like a 6-year-old you may know, or a 6-year-old you've ever been around, or you being 6 yourself. Like think about like Dora. Actually, no, don't think about Dora. I think Dora would get up and pack her own lunch. That's just my opinion. But think about like a child you know, and thinking about like them getting themselves up early, packing their own lunch, making their own lunch, and then taking it, like remember to take it to school. Imagine, like I am an adult and I can't even remember to pack my own lunch for work. How do you have this high expectation of your 6-year-old? The second problem I have with this is these people have 2.5 million followers on their YouTube channel, and they have a lot of followers on other channels. They're fucking rich. They have so much money. There's so much people in this world who can't afford a proper diet for their children, and I feel like it's just like her doing that and being so open and public about it is just rubbing like a bunch of fucking salt in the wound, right? She is selecting to push food insecurity onto her kindergartner or first grader, whatever grade she was in. That's so like, who does that? People don't want their kids, normal people don't want their kids to be food insecure. And she's just happily pushing that narrative onto her child. And child hunger in itself is already a traumatic experience. And then for your parents to, it's one thing for your parents to not be able to afford for you to eat the way you want or the way you need. But for your parents to push it on you is like a whole nother level. They are millionaires at this point. She has openly stated that they gain millions of dollars off of YouTube. You can't run down to the McDonald's down the road, pick her up like, you know, like a little Happy Meal and drop it off. You can't sit there and put a sandwich in a sandwich bag and drop it off to her. Or if she already made the food and is just sitting there, you can't just go drop it off. Like, you can afford to do these things. You have the gas money to drive down the road to your daughter's school to drop things off. Why you won't do it, I will never fucking understand. And that brings me into my third issue I have with this whole topic. This parenting style is just pure laziness. This lady is a stay-at-home mom that films her kids all day. She has the time to drop it off. It's not like she's busy, she's at work, she can't do something. Drop it off. By the looks of the other videos, it looks like the kids have the house, like, you know, when you're a housewife, has the house in pretty tip-top shape, which we'll look at a little later. But she's not doing any, like, cooking or cleaning or anything of the sort. She's sitting at home, filming herself talking to a camera. Literally just out of laziness because she did not want to do it, and she's calling this parenting. It is not parenting. And the fourth issue I have with the whole food insecurity situation is that She claims that this style of parenting is going to teach her child responsibilities at a young age. I agree that when you are growing up, you should have some form of responsibilities. I feel like her responsibility should be like cleaning her toys up after herself, making her bed, small responsibilities, and then like building up to that big one. But to leave your kindergartner with the responsibility to make, pack, and bring their own school lunch. You can't even throw them a 10 for school lunch. That's so like unrealistic. That's insane to me. Like, I'm thinking about like other 6-year-olds I've met in my life. There's absolutely just no way. And with all of the forced labor that these children are, which I'll get into later, but these children are forced to do a lot of labor. Maybe the child's fucking tired from all the shit you make her do. Who knows why she forgot the lunch, but that's not the point. The point is, as a parent, you need to do everything in your power to protect your child. And if you're not willing to do that, then you don't have kids. And this is also not teaching her anything about responsibilities. This is teaching her that her mother doesn't care about her, which is already like getting into the attachment issue she's going to have later on, but showing her that her mother does not care if she's hungry, doesn't care about her overall well-being, or how she's going to perform in school, which is a whole nother thing. School's going to be a whole nother thing later down in the video. But it's showing your kid that you could care less about their overall well-being as a person. They're telling her that it's okay for her to treat her potential children down the line that way. And Ruby probably does think that all children should be subjected to this if they make a mistake. Any Google search would tell you that there's a better way to teach your young children responsibility without literally making them starve for 7 hours. Another clip that I found where Chad and one of the younger brothers, they were just goofing around and literally just being kids. They were laughing, having fun. And Miss Franke did not like that. She goes, stop. And they're like, we're just having fun, like we're just goofing off, like nothing too serious. And then she threatens to not give them dinner if they don't stop being kids.
You're torturing him. Stop it. I know you're not, but it looks like you are. Okay, Russell. I'm only going to say it one more time, and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat dinner.
Like, that's the severity of how much she thinks hunger equates to perfect parenting.
I give you some breakfast.
You don't need food.
I don't know what book she read this in. I don't know anything she did. I don't know what she was doing. She made that shit up. Like, what? The second issue I have with the Ruby and Kevin Franke parenting style is that they don't believe that their children deserve any type of privacy, which again is another basic necessity for human life. And these poor children have their entire lives plastered all over the internet for over 2.5 million people to consume. So having no privacy in the sense of everything about their lives are plastered, it really opens them up. It really makes them vulnerable to bullies or predators. There's even one clip that I found of the parents actually going through one of their children's phones and reading out their text messages to the entire dinner table. But not only are the text messages being read out for the entire family, but the whole ordeal is being recorded and posted online to millions of people to consume and see what's in his phone.
No texting at the dinner table. No texting.
Let me see it. Let me see it.
I see it.
We should clarify that in our house, all our kids know that cell phones are free game for parents, so we can monitor safety. I really like you. Hold on.
I did not say that.
How do you work this stupid phone?
The only downside to giving your kids a flip phone is I swear I have to remember how to work it every time I go through it. Who are you texting?
No one.
Any girlfriend?
Whoa, whoa. I really like you. I saw you in my dreams last night.
I'm telling you, it's not her, it was her brother. Look, go down. She said, I'm so sorry, that was my brother.
Did
How
she?
do I go?
I saw you in my
Oh, oh my gosh, sorry, that was my brother. What is the nature of your relationship with this individual? I mean, there's like 300 texts in here.
Do you like her, or do you just like her? She's a new friend.
That is really, really messy. I don't know.
At one point, the oldest son, Chad, even got his bedroom taken away, which also was a very hot topic when talking about the Franke family. It was taken away because he actually played a really funny joke on his younger brother, something that I would probably do. He woke his brother up in the middle of the night and told him that they were going to Disney World, and he packed his stuff up and he made his bed and got ready to go to Disney World, and they weren't going to Disney World. It was just a prank, which it's a stupid prank. It was harmless, and for this punishment, Chad had no bedroom for 7 months. He slept on either a beanbag chair or the family room floor by choice of his parents. He couldn't even get the fucking couch. He got the floor or the beanbag chair, which is also very insane.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
And then I walk out.
if you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Russell got the big bedroom and Chad got the smaller bedroom. And Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room.
And I can't imagine how violating it must feel to not have a bed of your own, or just like a place to change your clothes or to keep your things. You just don't have any bedroom and you're kind of just living in this house. It must feel so like uncomfortable. And on top of that, people go through things. Children go through these things at home, not by choice. And again, it's just rubbing the salt in the wounds for people who really can't afford to give their children basic necessities. And for Ruby to do this by choice, to teach her child a lesson. And the crazy thing is, if you watch the clip back, he doesn't even understand what the lesson was or how like the bedroom for 7 months and the prank correlated. Like he didn't even understand the repercussions of his actions. Most parents would just take away the phone, you know, maybe like no PlayStation for like a week, like nothing crazy, but 7 months without a bedroom is absolutely wild and you don't even know what you did. They also post other weird vulnerable content of their daughters. They had a video of one of the daughters having a meltdown because she didn't like her makeup.
So mad at you. Why am I crying? No one's even gonna notice. No one even knows until I point it out. The hard part
You're crying.
is I'm gonna have to match it with the other eyebrow.
Or talking about puberty, just normal teenage girl things, normal teenage girl angst. If you're a female, you've been there, and you don't want that plastered online for everyone to see and for it to never go away. I think we all have moments when we were teenagers that we don't want people to see or we don't want to relive, and these children have all of that all over the internet. And even though now Ruby and Kevin have deleted the 8 Passengers YouTube channel, people still have the clips and they're still around, and that's still out there for everybody to see. They even had a video posted of one of their daughters being ran over by a bike, and filmed it, uploaded it, and nobody saw like an issue with it. It's beyond me. Like, you're just having your child ran over by a bike and she wants to be coddled by her parents after something traumatic like that happens, and you're just filming it and you're like, oh, I love content. Like, no, this is fucked. This is terrible. Just another thing I want to point out is that one of the kids had flip phones. I remember when I was in high school, I had a teacher and she openly talked about how she gave her 14-year-old daughter a flip phone so it can embarrass her. This teacher of mine, she did give very Ruby Franke. Like, she would talk so poorly of her daughter and so highly of like her 2-year-old son. They had different dads, so I'm assuming that was the case. But she was so nasty about her daughter, so she gave her a flip phone so everybody can make fun of her. Kind of giving Ruby. And for parents that do this, that think this is going to be like some type of punishment, it's not. First things first. Your child's going to find a way to do what they want to do, flip phone or not. Like, if they want to reach out to somebody, they're going to find a way. They're going to find a computer. They're going to go to the library. They're going to find a way to do what they want. They're teenagers, right? But not only are you said fuck their privacy, now you're also opening them up to more bullying, because unfortunately, that's just how our world is. Kids are mean. Kids make fun of other kids. It happens every day. So for you to be openly, like, being okay with that happening is just so, like, it's just a whole nother problem. And, you know, this may sound like I'm reaching with the whole flip phone thing, but it brings me into the point where we see some of the kids talking about how they have no friends.
No, I have no friends.
You can play with friends.
No, like, I don't have friends.
I don't have friends either.
I literally, like, told my friends I'm not hanging out with them anymore
Because there's
they say some pretty messed up stuff.
I don't even know where they live. They're pretty far away.
So?
Nobody wants to hang out with them. That brings me into my point of these kids have no friends. They have openly said it on camera that nobody wants to hang out with them. For me, friends were an escape from home. And the fact that these parents have everything about their children's lives so publicized, it's to the point where they can't even maintain friends or hold friends or like have anything. They're just home hitting their heads against a wall because their parents are so like batshit crazy. As a mom, I'm not a mom, but like as a human being, I just can't imagine being a mom and seeing that you are slowly breaking your children piece by piece and you don't do anything about it. You just continue to contribute to it. Like, that's just absolutely insane to me. Which brings me into my next point about parenting. Ruby has openly admitted on camera that the emotional well-being of her children does not matter to her. Which is just like, okay, that should be the first red flag. She believes that parenting should be emotionless. Even at one point, there's a clip out there where she threatens to cut off the head of one of her child's stuffed animals because her child likes playing with scissors.
If you cut one more thing in my house,
We're chopping its head off.
I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
So what are you going to do?
Are you gonna cut anything else? No.
You promise? Look at Mama.
We even see this emotional damage going on with the oldest son, Chad. Chad is like the what do they call it? Chad is the scapegoat of the family. You can tell in all of the videos, he is always the one that they're going to belittle first. And since he's been subjected to his parents' behavior, now that they claim that this child has emotional / behavioral problems, which honestly, it's never been stated what his emotional / behavioral problems were, so I'm not entirely too sure what they were. My guess is he probably started talking back to his mom and shit like that. That's honestly what I think happened, but I don't know. I don't live in their home. I don't know what happened. And you can just see like mood in his demeanor just by watching the videos that he does not want to be in that house. And you could just tell by the look in his eyes that that child is crying out for help, and nobody is doing anything about it. So to help this emotional damage, they sent him to a troubled teen camp, which, if you want a video about that, we could talk about that. And we've seen other celebrities like Paris Hilton and Daniel Bergoli talk about their experiences in troubled teen camps. Chad's experience was actually very similar to Paris Hilton's in the fact that he was also kidnapped in the middle of the night and taken to some type of wilderness camp. And he talks about it very vaguely in one of their videos.
Did you immediately love it? Or did it take some time to get used to it?
I kind of just accepted it.
And we pulled into, they had our parking spot. They were
Surrounding our parking spot.
I guess sometimes they have
Runners.
Just got out of the car, shook everyone's hand. Okay, say goodbye.
Since being away from technology for so long, how does it feel to be back on camera?
Natural muscle memory of 7-8 years of filming, it just came back. Notice that I'm relapsing and going back to what I've done in the past and being able to react.
But you can tell it wasn't an enjoyable experience. It's very hard for him to get through. He's trying to stay very surface level about it. But if you talk to any other, or if you've seen any other interview of any celebrity or child celebrity going through a troubled teen camp, they will tell you it was not a great experience. Paris Hilton had a whole fucking documentary on how bad it is. I also can't imagine being put in that position where you're sent somewhere and you cannot escape, especially the wilderness. I'm not a wilderness girly. Like, I may have some, like, you know, flowers on the wall and shit, but, like, don't expect me to go outside. Like, at that point, I probably would have moved in with other family members, to be quite honest. So regular watchers of the 8 Passengers family channel actually thought that their parenting style was actually effective, which it's so weird that these two people, Ruby and kevinfranke, have normalized the abuse of children, but people still found that their parenting style was really effective. When people started paying closer attention to the suspicious behavior in the 8 Passengers family channel, that's when petitions were created to remove them off of YouTube. I do have mixed feelings about removing them off of YouTube at that time. I feel like now it's warranted, but at that time I do have mixed feelings because even though I don't agree that everything about those children's lives should be online, I do feel like it gave some of us comfort knowing that the kids are somewhat alive and healthy. So I'm going to touch more on that later, but that's how I feel about the petition at that time. So once these petitions started, you know, up and running, Ruby Franke tried her absolute best to silence other creators from talking about her content. For example, we have Sloan, who said he's received a cease and desist. iNapper has announced that he has received a cease and desist. And many more of your favorite creators have received some type of legal document saying that you need to stop talking about 8 Passengers. So in 2022, this is when things really started to change. The 8 Passengers channel just vanished. She has stated in later years that she feels like the YouTube channel was spoiling her kids or giving them like big egos and big heads. And I'm just like, okay, lady, I think your head was big, but that's neither here nor there. And at this point in time, Chad had moved out, Sherry had moved out, and it's also believed that Kevin and Ruby had actually separated at this point, is assumed. Around this time, Ruby then meets a lady called Jodi Hildebrandt. And nobody seems to know how they met, why they were brought together, but they met and they're together. So before I get into the endeavors that Jodi and Ruby were doing, let's give some background on Jodi. So Jodi has been a licensed clinical mental health counselor since 2003. She's also a member of the LDS Church. Jodi specialized in addiction, more specifically corn addiction. An old archive article from the Salt Lake Tribune And it's talking about a patient's experience with Jodi as a mental health counselor. And this is actually when her license goes on probation for a brief period of time. So this patient claims that this took place in 2008. Him and his wife were seeking marriage counseling, which that's also a little fishy to me. This is all alleged by the patient, by the way, but it's very weird that she specializes in addiction, but they went to her for marriage counseling. I don't know if she advertised it that way or they just went to her because they knew her. I don't know the whole logistics behind that. And he quotes Jodi pulled both of them into a corn marathon, whatever that means. Allegedly, Jodi had told some members of the LDS Church and the Brigham Young University that this patient had a corn addiction. Whether this patient did or did not have the addiction, it did not matter. It should not have been shared to anybody. If this is true, that definitely violates HIPAA laws. And in the United States, there is a Privacy Act where your doctor or anybody working within the medical field or medical team cannot release information. So, I could say my patient has X, Y, and Z, but I cannot say my patient is this person, right? Or I can't say this person has X, Y, and Z. Like, you can't connect the two. This patient alleges that her claims caused him to be kicked off the church, lose his job, have a divorce, and he was still paying her $2,000 a month, which is fucked beyond belief. Which, again, if it's true or not, it doesn't fucking matter. You should not be running your mouth telling people things about your patients. That's why we have such laws like HIPAA to protect us from things like this happening. That is when she was on her 18-month long probation. But back to the original story about Ruby. We have the mommy monster and we have the holier-than-thou mental health counselor. They get together and it's fucking hell on earth, no pun intended. So they came together and created their own company called Connections. And Connections actually had several different components to it. They had a podcast, they had several different social media sites, they had a YouTube channel, they even had classes to offer parents, which is really fucked, really insane. They even call themselves the Moms of Truth. Looks like to me is that they just create their own type of living status and threw some Bible words in there and called it religion. Just because you put truth or holy in a sentence doesn't make it a holy or truthful sentence. None of their teachings were religious in the slightest. It became like anti-Bible. So take that with what you will. So some things that they talked about is that they believe that all people were living in distortion. It means like we are all living in addiction, whether that be shopping, our jobs, our spouses, living in shame or denial, feeling like we're not good enough, being codependent in a relationship, or living in lust or in control of others. Which is literally just like the human mind. Some of these things you can't control and they're inevitable, and if some of these things do happen to you, it's okay. It happens to most other people, and it's an unrealistic expectation to be set, especially by a mental health counselor. That is the exact opposite of what they teach you in school and in church. They used to spew just random hateful shit that they knew of, that they could say to piss people off. And People News even stated that there are some clips of Jodi and Ruby downplaying the seriousness of EDs, blaming R-word victims, and criticizing U.S. immigrants.
It's because they're so numb. And so the more numb your child is, the greater experience, the bigger the outcome. They need to wake them up. You're not going to push a boulder with just your hands. You need some real leverage. And the biggest leverage that a little child has is probably Santa Claus. And so I expressed to them that I love your soul more than anything in this world. And I literally would do anything to invite you into repentance. And I know parents say that I would do anything for my kid, but really
what I think most parents are saying is, I would give anything to you if I would pay any price monetarily. I don't know how many parents are actually willing to put any boundary in place that would bring a turnaround, that would really bring repentance. So that is our gift. Our gift is a reflection of truth to our child of, this is how selfish you have shown up. And it's not like once or twice. It's not 1 week. This is like months and months and months and months and months you have shown up this selfish. And so I'm going to reflect truth to you equally, which is about the equivalent of Santa not coming.
People used to be called retarded, and there was no negative connotation to that, but someone or some group put negative connotation onto retarded. And some of you are cringing like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she just said that. And there's nothing bad about retard. It just means slow. I'm retarded in several areas, like baking's one of them.
Manifestations as the first priority over principles. So instead of making your decision based on what is the truth, based on what is honest, responsible, and humble, you are basing your parenting decisions on how will the child respond. So you're taking the child's responses and putting that as your number one. That is the worship. The tactics that distortion uses is to change the meaning of words over time so that there's confusion. I remember when Common Core came into the school system, and it was a battle trying to speak with my child around math, a math problem I knew how to do, and yet the language I was using was not being understood by my child because different meanings were placed on those words, and it was divisive. So meanings of words have changed, and this is why it's important to go back to God for the meaning, because God doesn't change.
So there are other things that are going on in the world. There's this woke mentality. Someone just said to me just a few minutes ago, like, you talk so much about being awake, but you don't like to say the word woke.
And I laughed because I'm like, does this person not understand the difference in the meaning of woke and awake? It's like completely opposite. But the person who was saying it thought that they meant the same thing.
Yeah, right.
And it's because this person wasn't extrapolating. They didn't know how to think. They were only thinking concrete.
And they were only thinking about their own meaning, which is the distortion. So if they want to have a conversation with another person, they must stay humble, right? Responsible and humble. They must stay humble and get curious. Like, what do you mean by awake? And is there a difference between you using the word awake and using the word woke? And I'd say, yes.
So at this point, we have Ruby and Jodi doing their whole little connections bullshit. And the YouTube channel is gone. So people are starting to connect the dots, like, what is going on with kids? We can't see the kids anymore. What is she talking about? Like, people are just confused. So we're all like, well, what is the well-being? What is the status of the well-being of the children? And that brings me into August 30th of 2023. The Santa Clara Public Safety Department received a call. This caller said that they had a child show up to their doorstep asking for food, water, and help.
Boys show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty. He says what's happened to him is his fault. Out of the house, he says he just left through the porch at the neighbor's house.
The neighbor clearly moved to tears.
Yeah, this boy has been... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Police arrived. They found an emaciated 12-year-old, and he had duct tape ligatures around his wrist and on his ankles. And this little boy had a sister, and he told the police where they can find his sister. which was in the basement of Jodi Hildebrandt's house. She was also duct taped, and she was also very emaciated. And once the police were able to kind of wrap their heads around everything, these two children were taken to the hospital immediately. These two kids did belong to Kevin and Ruby Franke. Immediately, CPS took custody of the two children, and on top of that, they took custody of the other two teenage kids that were not at Jodi's house at the time. Ruby and Jodi were then charged with 6 counts of aggravated child. NBC actually reported around this time that Ruby's kids were not even in school. Ruby's neighbors had tried to call CPS to get a wellness check on these two children. One of the neighbors even recalled times where he would see the youngest daughter wandering around the neighborhood looking for friends, which is so sad. He said that she would knock on his door and ask to play with his daughter that's around her age, and he would say, you know, no honey, like, she's in school. And it's just so sad. This child would sit there and wait for his daughter to come home from school. And where is Ruby and Kevin to be found? Absolutely nowhere. Nowhere to be found. Apparently, the youngest daughter would go around the community just looking for people to play with or talk to, which is extremely dangerous. You don't know who's on the streets and who could take your child. Apparently, the school district did not comment on this. It's not confirmed or denied, but it is just something to account as to what was happening once 8 passengers was shut down. And once the arrest happened, Sherry, the oldest daughter, actually spoke out, and she wrote finally on her Instagram story. And she also wrote, today has been a big day, which I guess there was some type of falling out between herself and her parents, and that's why she left. I don't know why she had the falling out, but I guess she kind of saw what was happening from an outside point of view, which she is in college, so it could be that, you know, she's going out, seeing these different experiences and being like, oh shit, my experience with my parents is not normal. She also wrote, me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell police and CPS for years, and finally they decided to step up. And more family members of Ruby started to speak out against her, including her 3 sisters, Ellie, Bonnie, and Julie. So first they created a joint statement together, which wrote, behind the public scene, we have done everything we could to try and make sure the kids were safe. We wouldn't feel right about moving forward with regular content without addressing the most recent news. Once we do, we will not be commenting on it further. Ruby was arrested, which needed to happen. Jodi was arrested, which needed to happen. The kids are now safe, which is the #1 priority. Which I saw a lot of crap against the 3 sisters. Like, they should do something about it. I don't know if this is like this in other families, but you can't control what somebody does with their kids unless you're CPS. It could be very possible that she cut her sisters off. That's what they said. And we also don't know what was happening behind the scenes. They could have each been calling CPS 3 times a day and trying to figure out what's going on. We don't know. And unless CPS comes out and says, we have no records from these ladies ever trying to contact us, we will never know if they really tried. But I also don't want to count them out and say that they didn't, if that makes sense. I just don't feel okay with the slander of 3 aunts who possibly didn't even know what was going on or really tried to help, and they were ignored, which is a real problem with Child Protective Services. They started to create their own videos, adding their own 2 cents on the situation, and they basically all reiterated that they were shunned by their sisters. They tried everything that they can, etc., everything I just said. And like I said before, we don't know what they did, so for us to be very critical of what they're doing and their statements is so weird. We don't know what they did, so be nice. And at this point, even Jodi's niece comes out and addresses her. Jodi's niece is named Jessie, and Jessie was sent to Jodi's house by her mother because I guess Jessie apparently had some type of behavioral issue, so she thought Jodi would straighten her up. And Jodi did the complete opposite, and she traumatized her niece. She said that her experience was eerily similar to the description of how the children were found in Jodi's home. She states that she experienced being tied, duct taped, blindfolded, isolation, severe emotional, spiritual, and physiological abuse. She alleged, I experienced being told I shouldn't be around other people, being told that I was too dangerous to be around. People were afraid of me to the point where I was afraid of myself, forced to sleep outside in the snow under Jodi's care, as well as being alleging that Jodi accused her of being a sex addict, which sounds eerily similar to the patient's experience as well, being told that you're one thing about sex and then you're and it's not true. So you have two people telling the same narrative, and then you have her experience compared to the children that were found. It's just sounding like they're sounding very, it's giving real, it's giving truth. It's giving Jesse's truth.
He does this. We knew 14, almost 15 years ago that she's already done this to me. And people saw and people witnessed and did nothing. She made me sleep outside in the snow. She duct taped me. I wasn't allowed to speak to anyone.
What, in theory, was the justification for the duct tape?
The duct tape was, in her words, an external reminder to me that I'm a liar and that every word that comes out of my mouth is a lie. I understand why the public is focusing on Ruby. It's Ruby's children. But all of these theories and these modalities and these parenting ideas, that all comes from Jodi. That is 100% the therapeutic ideas of Jodi Hildebrandt.
And her statements are just so damning. And I'm really proud of Jessie for coming forward and telling her story. That's a very brave thing to do in light of what's going on with the case. So really, I hope Jessie truly heals. And if she ever sees this, I wish you nothing but the best. Then in the same week, Kevin divorces Ruby. I am going to rant so hard about Kevin. He claimed that him and his wife were separated for this entire year, and he had no idea what was happening in his own home. He claims that he was forced out by Ruby in hopes of rekindling the relationship. And I have two rants about his whole reasoning for leaving. One, I truly do not believe that Ruby's abuse would have escalated without meeting Jodi, 100%. But you were there for all the smaller moments, for the food insecurity, the lack of privacy, sending your child to a troubled teen camp. You were there the entire time. So for you to act like an ass and pretend like you didn't know is just mind-boggling, because you were there. You were in the video. You were in the video. You were in all of the videos. So for you to sit there and pretend like you didn't know what was happening or it was escalating is bullshit. So yes, you were there for the early stages of the abuse. And the second problem I have is you are openly admitting that your wife means more to you than your own children. 100%. Because one, you're a fucking deadbeat. Second of all, if you really loved your kids the way you say you do, you wouldn't just up and leave just for fucking funsies. Just because you wanted to. You wouldn't have what? Any real father would have immediately taken her ass to court. After a few weeks, you'd been okay, we need to figure out what this custody situation is because I'm not seeing my kids. But it's clear that he did not care about his kids the same way he cared about Ruby, because he stood there looking like an ass for a year in hopes to get back with his wife. If I have become a parent, I feel like your kids should become the first priority, and to him, it's clearly not. But no, we're gonna sit here and act innocent so you can have custody of the kids, which should not fucking happen. And it's insane that you're trying to play back hard, because people on the internet had more concern about your kids than you and your fucking wife. So I don't understand why we're trying to play this innocent victim where we all watched you participate in everything. And now that, oh, now I'm at the house, I know, fuck you. And the only reason why you came out and made a statement like that is because you're being ripped apart by the public. You are not a hero in this situation. You are a deadbeat father. And you need to stay that way. You left your kids for a year so they can be duct taped in somebody's basement that they're not even related to. They don't even fucking know this lady. And you have the nerve to come over here talking about you want custody? Custody? No. No. Speaking of custody, let's talk about the custody battle. So prior to the arrest, Ruby and Kevin had sole custody of their kids. And since this happened, there's been an ongoing custody battle between Sherry and Kevin. At some point, she did have custody of the younger children. And when she did go back into the home, she had taken some personal items of the children, obviously, and she also took some electronics because they are kids. They are going to want their phones and their iPads. And this infuriated Kevin Franke, and he called the police on his daughter, stating that she stole from him, and he would like charges pressed against her, stating that she stole from him and that she took private property. He actually stated Sherry is not allowed in the home and believes that she entered unlawfully and wants her charged with burglary. The officer had to explain to him that. So the officers actually had to explain to him that they actually forcefully went into the home. Police forcefully went into the home.
Yeah, explain to me again why this was not robbery.
Because it's a civil issue. You guys are family. She's been in the house before. You haven't been in the house in a year. She had interest in the items. She didn't take them with the intention to deprive you of them. So theft, that's the theft code. We have to prove intent to deprive you of the items. And that wasn't her intent in having them. So the detective sergeant said that we're not going to charge her for anything.
Okay. I'll have to do some more research on that.
You're welcome to do that. If you want to follow up with her, text me yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. With Sherry so she can retrieve the items. So she went in with the police and properly got the items. She didn't go in when nobody was around. She got the stuff with the police being there. She did things the right way. He didn't like that response, but is what it is. And to me, if you're talking that you're like upset that she took some electronics, that tells me two things. One, you're broke and you're trying to sell them. Or you have something to hide on those electronic devices and you don't want that getting out. That's what that tells me. Because a lot of parents do have like emails set up on like their children's iPads where they can still access everything on the iPad from their phone. You know how Apple works. And that tells me that they can probably find something on those electronic devices, and that's why he wants his daughter charged with burglary. And personally, I want to absolutely commend Sherry for everything that she has done for her siblings. She's trying her best. She's 20 years old and in college, and I'm someone who just graduated college, and I know exactly how hard that is, and I don't wish that on anybody. And then on top of that, having custody of 4 kids is absolutely wild, and I really wish her the best of luck in this custody battle. There was a moment where 2 of the siblings were removed from Sherry's home, back with Kevin. They were just being teenagers. They didn't want to be with Sherry. They didn't want to be with Ruby, so they just moved back home. But other than that, a judge did seal all of the court hearings moving forward. He actually did this on October 15th. We won't ever know the outcome of this custody battle because it is sealed from now on. There has been a lot of rumors and speculation about what's going on with the custody battle. We don't know because it is a sealed case from this point on. So as of December 15th, which I'm filming this on December 22nd, Ruby has spoken out through her attorneys about her thoughts and feelings about everything and what happened. She did plead guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. So it states in the legal documents, count 1, the defendant's actions, involved the physical torture of RF. Initially, RF was forced to do physical tasks for hours and days at a time. These included wall sits, carrying boxes full of books up and down stairs, and working outside. Eventually, RF was forced to do outside labor without shoes in the summer heat. He was forced to stand in direct sunlight for several days. He was forced to remain outside of all hours of the day and night for extended periods of time. These actions resulted in repeated and serious sunburns with blisters and swelling skin. RF was denied adequate water for several days, and he was required to remain in the summer heat, and he was punished when he secretly consumed water. He was denied sufficient food, and when given food, he was very plain meals like rice and chicken, while others in the house ate regular and more flavorful meals. He was isolated from other people and denied all forms of entertainment, including books, notebooks, and electronics. In addition, after RF had attempted to run away in July, his hands and feet were regularly bound, including being tied to the defendant and to weights. Many times, the bindings included 2 sets of handcuffs, one on RF's wrists and the other on his ankles. At the time, with RF lying on his stomach, ropes were used to tie 2 sets of handcuffs together. I'm sorry, this is just really hard to read. So that his arms and lower legs were lifted off the ground. The bindings resulted in injuries to RF's wrists and ankles, where handcuffs through the skin and damaged tissues and muscles. These injuries were treated with homeopathic remedies and covered with duct tapes. Then the bindings were placed on top of the duct tape. A specific instance of abuse committed by the defendant was kicking RF while wearing boots, holding his head underwater, cuffing off oxygen by placing her hands over his mouth and nose. Count 2. The action described above caused severe harm to RF due to the fact that they began in May and escalated throughout the summer months. Additionally, the defendant and another adult regularly sought to indoctrinate RF and convince him that he was evil and possessed, and that he needed to willingly be obedient to avoid punishment, and that the punishment were necessary to repent. He was also told that everything that was being done to him were acts of love. Count 3. The defendant's actions also caused severe emotional harm to EF. Other than binding and the specific incidents of abuse with RF was subjected to, EF was subjected to the same treatment as her brother. She was isolated and forced to do physical tasks, remain outside, and denied food and water. She was repeatedly told that she was evil and possessed, and the punishments were necessary for her to be obedient and repent. And these things were being done to her in order to help her. EF was convinced that she was evil and needed to go through these things in order to repent. Count 4. The defendant's actions caused 2 or more physical injuries to EF. She was forced to work outside in the heat, barefoot. She was forced to run barefoot on dirt roads for extended periods of time. EF's feet were repeatedly injured and was repeatedly sunburned. When examined on the 30th, these wounds were apparently scabs, blisters, and swelling skin. Yeah, not great stuff. That was really heavy. Can't believe she did what she did to her kids, and she definitely deserves to be locked up. So originally she was charged with 6 counts, but then it was reduced to 4 counts due to the fact that she is set to testify against Jodi. Now, I wonder what the fuck those other 2 counts were, because those 4 counts were awful. So I wonder what the other 2 counts were originally. But I guess we'll never know. She does blame Jodi's influence on her for why she behaved this way with her children. So her attorneys claim that Hildebrandt systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband Kevin Franke. This prolonged isolation resulted in Miss Franke being subjected to distorted sense of morality shaped by Miss Hildebrandt's influence. And here's my issue with that. If you watch this video, she talks about a lot of like this is my house, these are my kids. She's very set on that. I'm surprised that she's allowing somebody else to take credit for her behavior, because she's very much like, this is mine, this is what I'm gonna do, this is why I'm gonna do it. But now she's like, but you know, that can't be me, you know, like this is really bad, I couldn't have done it. Like, you were so like open about your abuse and your actions before, and now that you've been charged with 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, now it's a different story. She used to be open about how controlling she was, and now you're letting somebody else have control over you. It's just not making sense. And then first we have Chad as the scapegoat, then we have the youngest 2 as the scapegoat, and now we have Jodi as the scapegoat. Like, fucking pick your poison. You just keep making excuses instead of owning up to your fucking actions. She said through her attorneys, with my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty. I'm actually surprised she pleaded guilty, not gonna lie. I'm surprised because I thought she would fight it much harder. But I guess the evidence they had against her was way too damning. So I guess she pleaded guilty so she can avoid the whole trial, avoid more things coming out, because I do believe everything, including her YouTube videos, her testimony from her older 2 children, her sisters, I think that shit would have been damaging, and she would have never came back from that. So I think her cop-out was to take the plea deal and call it a day. And honestly, she's a very dramatic woman from what I've seen. So I thought before she pled, she was going to plead not guilty, and it would have been a very dramatic Johnny Depp Amber Heard like trial. Like, I thought it was going to be very dramatized and a lot going on. And I'm surprised that she just took the easy way out, because she doesn't seem like that type of person to just be like, yep, I'm guilty, you know? And I thought she would have blamed her husband for not being there more. Like, I don't know what I expected, but it definitely wasn't this statement. I'm not surprised she took no accountability for her actions and what she did to her children, you know, suffocating them and holding their head underwater. And we don't know how long she's going to be in prison. Her sentencing hearing is set for February 20th of 2024. I will let you know that 1 count of aggravated child abuse carries up to 15 years in the state of Utah. Therefore, she is facing a maximum of 60 years, which she's in her 40s right now. So that's essentially life in prison for her. And it scares me that her minimum is 4 years. I don't think she'll get 4 years. I think she's gonna get probably in like the 20s, which I think is deserved. But I really am looking forward to see if they give her the 60 years. I think she deserves it after what she put her kids through, and she could have killed them. I do think that maybe an attempted murder charge would have been just as fitting. So I do hope they go with the maximum, because she almost killed her kids on several occasions, according to her arrest affidavit. Jodi is set to be seen in court next week, so after Christmas. So I will post an update when that time comes, but I think she's gonna fight it. I think her lawyers haven't said anything about how they're moving. I think it's very telling that they gave Ruby a plea deal to testify against Jodi. Like, that's very weird, which honestly I think she should have been found on all counts, but that's neither here nor there. But that makes me think that Jodi is going to try to fight this, and potentially a trial might ensue, which is kind of insane. In my eyes, I believe that they were co-conspirators, and I believe that they were egging each other on. I don't think that it would have escalated to this point if they hadn't met each other, but I do think since they did meet each other, but yeah, I think they were co-conspirators. I do believe that Jodi gave Ruby the courage to do things she would have never done, or something she was already planning to do. I'm not entirely too sure what was going on in their heads, but I do think they're both very evil women. I hope they both get the maximum, which is for them life in prison. And it's always nice to have 2 less people that abuse children off the streets and not working in mental health or spewing their bullshit online. I want to know what you think down below. Tell me, do you think that she should have the maximum sentence? Do you think Kevin should be charged? Do you think Jodi is going to trial? Please let me know your thoughts and opinions below. I'll be responding to every single comment down below. But now that you've made it this far into the video, remember to subscribe to keep my channel breathing. Remember to like and share if you care, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, and don't forget to send me any video ideas. Bye!